Have you heard of the term love pat? Did you know that you turn into a triangle when you move countries? And do you have any idea what it means when someone has hot country sock envy? Hello and welcome to another episode of Transcontinental Overload. I'm Stephanie and my guest today is Cath Brew, an Australian who's lived in the UK for almost 14 years. Cath is an illustrator and an author and also a heritage and cultural interpreter who specialises in identity, belonging and expat life. She has published a wonderful book of cartoons called Living Elsewhere. And she calls herself a love pat. That is someone who moved to another country for love. Let's hear Cath's story. Hello, Cath. I'm so excited to sit down with you today and talk a little bit about your expat experience. So you are Australian. You've been British transplant for a while now. So tell us, how did you get from Australia to the UK?
Yeah, well, I officially now have the passport, so I'm officially British as well. But 2005, I was working in Sydney at the time, and I went to a conference in Bath, in the UK, and completely unexpectedly, I sat next to someone at the first night at dinner, and that person is now my wife. So we kind of clicked and nothing happened at the conference, and later we kind of connected, and at that point it was easier for me to live in this country than it was for Ange to come to Australia, partly just because we could actually get married in this country. So that many years later I'm still here, and I refer to myself as a love pat, but I don't know, I sometimes think, am I now a love pat or an expat, or does that change because I've been here for so long? And
Also you're a citizen now. So,
yeah,
but this is one of the things. Is like when I was thinking about how to talk about this podcast, the term expat to me is also quite kind of weird. So to me, an expat used to be always like a, I was thinking of Brits going to Spain and eating beans on toast. That to me were expats.
Absolutely.
So
And then also it also has other kind of not as nice connotations of kind of the British in India and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, I think of expat as purely its definition of expatria, that you are out of your country of birth. But I don't know, because I go home and I don't feel quite like I fit there, but I don't feel like I quite fit here.
But this is what happens, and it's actually kind of takes me very nicely to something I want to talk to you about, which is the I Am a Triangle organization. But before I do that, I just want to point out that Cath, and this is how I also heard about the Triangle, I Am a Triangle community. Cath has written a book, or should I say illustrated a book, really produced a book, and it's wonderful. And we'll get back to that in a minute. It's called Living Elsewhere, and it's cartoons on expat living and experiences, and it's fabulous. And when I first looked into it, there was a big kind of mention of the I Am a Triangle community. So and I looked that up, and then I thought, what a wonderful organization. And so that opens so many doors. But let's how about you tell us a little bit about what
well, I was at a phase in living here where I was really not coping well with feeling like I was the odd one out, really. And I happened one day to be going to a training session that my wife was running for her work, and one of the people that was there happened to be a Canadian, I think she was, and we were just talking about identity and how you can struggle, and she said, oh, you should look up I'm a Triangle. So I did, and had no idea what it was about, and then I got chatting to the founder, Naomi Hattaway, who then has since become a friend. But I suddenly found that there were people like me, and I wasn't just on my own, and all the things I was expressing and struggling with. And it basically saved me and kind of felt like it kept me sane. And then I started to draw to help how I was feeling. It just helped with the depression. And I mentioned to Naomi one day that I might do some drawings because I really like drawing and I might do a book. And she said, yes, go on. And then I was like, oh no, I've got to do it now. Like, but
yeah, I know the
but
feeling.
yeah, but by making myself accountable by telling her, it meant that I would do it. And I have to say, it was the best thing I ever did. So yeah.
And I just love that. And this is one of those things that we discover the things that help us cope with all these transitions that we go through, because it's like you move abroad and you don't planned or unplanned, and you don't really think about what happens in your mind and your emotions, and it's so complicated and jumbled up, and so everyone has to have an outlet for that. And I think so for me it was writing, and kind of starting the blog was huge. And for you it was drawing. And I mean that your book is just, it just speaks to to me on so many levels. And I mean I just love the titles. So there's one that's called Hot Country Sock Envy. And you think, what? It's amazing. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it's for those of us who live in warm climates and we wear sandals and flip-flops all year round, and we
I don't like you lot living in I'm living in the cold.
we miss those days. We're just kind of longing to put boots on and a coat and kind of feel and this is people who live in the northern kind of colder climates. Are you insane? I would love to wear flip-flops all year round, but no, you don't. You have that kind of. And so that drawing, that page is wonderful. It's just exactly that. When can I finally wear a coat and boots?
But also, but it's those ridiculous little things that actually they take their toll on like minute levels that you don't realize that you're coping with all the time. And it's not necessarily the big stuff. It's the minutiae, like it's this tiny stuff. And suddenly you realize that all these little things which would be fine on their own have had this massive impact on you.
And you just go it's like looking into your that's one of your other drawings, is the delights of plugs, adapters and leads. So I have 2 drawers full of that. And it's like UK, Germany, so Europe, US, and then adapters that plug into other adapters that plug into other adapters that have different, and it's this big jumble. It's like I open this drawer and it's this big jumble of a hot mess, and I still can't ever find the one I need.
No, and then you plug them all together and you're worried you're going to blow up the house.
Or when you just, it's like you need to leave for the airport and you're like, oh, I forgot my adapter, and you just grab the whole lot and throw it into your suitcase, and then you get out at the other end, and that's such a good representation of my mind sometimes. It's like, where am I at? What language am I speaking? Who's it's and I just love that in one drawing you can capture all those emotions. So that's it's
well and I think that's the thing that I've always been fascinated by, how people how they make meaning and how they cope with things, and how all the internal dialogue that we don't see as an external kind of person to them, all the stuff that goes on in your head. And I wanted to do drawings that represented all the fun stuff and all the things that we all laugh about with kind of funny language or things that you get slightly wrong or whatever, but actually the invisible layer that nobody talks about, that you all kind of suffer in silence.
Yes,
and I wanted a depth to that.
And I love that, and I think you did that. And it's like the one drawing with the people staring at the same moon. When you think of someone, you have those moments when that really just happens when you're outside and it's a full moon, and you think, oh, I wonder if my friend so and so across the ocean is looking at the same moon right now. That's a level of I think mental imagery that's just it's fantastic to have.
No, thank you. I mean, I love hearing people. I mean, I did it. It was basically my coping strategy. So but I love hearing how much it resonates with other people. And it just it kind of fed my soul, so I'm hoping it feeds other people's. So.
And it really works with the whole I am a triangle idea. And do you want to maybe explain what the triangle what it means to be a triangle?
To be a triangle usually relates to the fact that you evolve and you change as you go through living in other countries. So you start, say you're a circle and you come from circle country, and everything you know is about circles, or your rituals or your culture, your food, everything is circles. And then you go to square country, where everything that people do in square country. It's all their rituals, all their food, all their traditions, all that kind of thing. And you pick up a bit of that, but you lose a bit of your own stuff at the same time. And so, and then you might move on to another country, or you might stay there, but your shape changes, and you end up with this kind of triangle shape that's a combination of all the places. So that's kind of what a triangle concept is, and I'm a Triangle is exactly that. It's an amazing online community and platform where there's all resources and all kinds of things where people just support each other and talk to each other and get help, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they have those kind of subsections, so you can find your tribe, because sometimes maybe you're a triangle now
Mm,
because you've lived outside of circle country and moved to square country, and now you're
mm.
triangle, and when you go back to circle country you don't feel like circle
No,
anymore
no,
because you're
you're still
triangle.
Triangle. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that in that community you can find those people who've done that, who've gone back to
Mm,
their home countries but they've lived
mm.
abroad, so now
Yeah.
they don't feel like they belong anymore, and they have
No.
what we call reverse culture shock, where it's just you
Mm,
can't. And I mean, I've done that to an extent, so I went
mm.
back to the UK, which is not my home country, but it was
No.
my home country. And
I love
I
how you say home, because
I would
that's what Australia is to me, is home, and this is
yeah,
home.
see, this
Like,
is Germany to me is home, but I haven't lived there for
yeah,
so long that when I go
yeah,
there, I cannot even imagine living there right now. I love
mm,
visiting and I love so many things about it, and I'm still German,
mm,
so I still have a lot of German identity, but
mm,
not really, because I'm a triangle now.
mm,
And
mm.
I just, it's just so fascinating to have someone to kind of put that in a just a
Mm.
very simple
Yeah,
analogy, and
yeah,
it's great. And
yeah.
like, as I said, you can find your tribe there, and it's like
Mm,
people who are planning to do that, people who are
mm.
planning to
Yeah.
basically
There's
essentially leave and become a triangle. So
yeah. It's very useful because there's they use a social network called Mighty Networks,
mhm.
and it's wonderful because there's a lot of people that have been doing this forever, and then there's some very new people, and it's a good range for people to actually have people to ask questions of, and kind of say, the company's given us these 3 locations, which would you recommend? We've got 2 kids this age and that age, and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
it's a wonderful resource, and it's also got a section on the app where you can find people that are close to you. um, so I linked up with a woman who wasn't Australian, but she'd lived in Australia for a period of time, and just having someone that had some understanding of Australia was wonderful.
Yes, up completely, because those are the kind of things that we need as well, because people have different needs, and a
Mm,
German moving to the US might have different needs to a
mm,
British person moving to the US, or an
yeah,
Italian. And so
yeah,
it's just nice to find those things. And I think
mm,
that's one of the things. I mean, I there was when I left Germany, that was over 20 years ago. th- There weren't that many online resources. I mean, there was
no,
barely anything. And then even 10 years ago,
mm,
when I moved to the US, there wasn't that much. And but also, I didn't really know I would need it. And
mm,
that's the other thing. I think to
that's
kind
very
of
true.
spread
Mm,
awareness that that's a really useful resource. If you do
mm,
some research before you go, and not just
mm,
about the country's traditions and customs, but
mm,
just kind of what people who've done this have
mm,
experienced, I think is so helpful. And that
yeah,
realization that you need the support. When
mm,
I always find that
mm,
as someone who makes that decision to go and live somewhere else, you always think, oh, I've got it, I can do this, I can do it myself.
yeah,
And
until you can't.
it's until you can't, and then you're like, oh, and what do I do now? And so it's just
Mm,
nice to kind of have that sense of,
yeah,
there is a community out there, and you don't be
mm,
shy, just use it, because it will
yeah,
enhance your experience so
yeah.
much. And
Yeah, yeah, you're correct, but you also don't know that you need it until you need it. Like, you, even if
very
you
true.
do all the research in the world, you're still not going to understand until that thing really hits you in the face,
No,
or you're
and
hoping.
sometimes it's, someone will tell you, oh, you should do this and that, and you think, oh,
Mm,
thanks for the advice, and then you do it and you think, no, that didn't work for me at
yeah,
all. So I mean,
exactly.
that's the flip
Yeah.
side, but at least to know that there is support there if you need it,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
think
absolutely. Yeah,
fantastic.
just yeah, it's there, and and also, not that it's just there, but that people are really generous with their help, and their support, and just, I mean, I've had many times when I've seen someone post something and they're not coping, or something's really hit them, and then you reach out privately as well, and you end up having a few days where you have some conversations backwards and forwards with a complete stranger, but you know that you can help them, and you do that because you hope that someone else will do it for you one day.
Yes, absolutely. And also you kind of, it helps you find, you can maybe find the words even to comfort someone. Whereas it's because I've had a few moments where I felt really low, or it's just really I couldn't do it. And then I'd call a friend or my mum, and then they would be like, well, I don't really know what to say to you now. And you think, well, that's not very helpful.
No.
And
no.
so it's almost like you need someone who's not, because they feel terrible because they can't help you. They miss you, or they're just really sad for you, and you don't need that. You want someone who's like, I hear you, I know what you're going through. If you need advice, I can give it, but I'm also here to you can just vent. You can just say, I hate this, and it's fine.
Yeah, and that's very true, because you often can't do that with friends and family because they miss you, and there's also this idea that expat life is this big, glorious, wonderful thing all the time,
So
and
true.
you can't sometimes complain to people about the things your struggles are, because it's seen as a privileged kind of, it's a choice, and actually, well, if you don't like it, go home. And it's not that simple.
It's not that simple at all, and it's just it almost makes it worse, because then you kind of feel like, oh, they want me to move back, and then you get the guilt, and you get that kind of complicated feeling of who do I satisfy? Do I satisfy myself, my own needs? What are my own needs? Because they just kind of go out the window, and so it definitely helps to have people who've gone through an experience like this. Do you get from like people back home in Australia, do they comment on or say things about the UK? Because I always got people kind of commenting on, so especially with England, how do you deal with the weather and what are you doing, and then all those kind of cliches and things. And it's
I mean, there are some cliches, but it's mainly that actually the cliches are more from English people towards me being Australian.
Try being a German in the UK.
Well, yeah, exactly. Did they always say, yes, but we won the war? That's like always.
Yeah, only every other. No, I mean, I'm not being fair now, but yes, there's prejudice, and that's sometimes perceived as being, oh, it's just banter, it's just funny, but yes, but no.
No, well, exactly. I made a video which I posted on my social media about the discrimination and the things that have been said to me, and the kind of really horrible things.
Yes.
And people often assume that because I'm white, because I've got red hair, and therefore I could come from Scotland, and I speak English, and all these things, that I'm one of them. And they don't realise the crappy comments that I've received. So I made a video and saying, look, if I get this stuff, spare a thought for the person who's got different coloured skin, or they wear religious clothing, or they're different, they speak with an accent or whatever. What are their days like? If I'm having days where I'm getting stuff several times a day and it's like it's really wearing thin, what's it like for someone who's even more other than I am? And that, I think that's also where my business with Drawn to a Story is going much more, is about being that voice for marginalized people who don't have a voice, who don't feel like they've got a voice. And then there's also cultural things like being red-haired. I never had any problem in Australia, and in the UK there's an awful lot of anti-ginger comments. And part of that's a joke, and I kind of get it, but when you're in a business meeting and someone talks about drowning gingers at birth, it's not quite appropriate.
But that's as a whole other topic, is the like Brits and their sense of humor, which is amazing, and it's like one of the reasons why I loved being there so much. But you have to really get used to it, and you have to kind of be able to take
passive aggressive. I mean, you talk. I was going to say, you talk about having the German stuff. I get the kind of superior mother country thing with colony. And I've had people look down at my ankle and say, oh, I see that the ball and chain's been removed, referring to convicts. And like the odd thing, it's fine, but when it's your everyday, and it's just like, oh, really? Like
it can get very wearing. And I've come across this with when we moved to the US, and then you talk about language and American English, and that whole kind of, you can get into a rabbit hole that just kind of never come up again, because that discussion of which English is the
Mm.
best English. And
Well,
I'm
English would say it's
so
English because it's English.
tired of it. I have to say that when we first moved in, and I was very much it's like, well, I'm going to say the things the way I say them because that's the right way. And now after 10 years, I'm like, are you kidding me? There is no better
Well, language
English,
changes.
or
Yeah,
language changes,
language evolves.
but you still have to deal with it. And you kind of, and
Do
well, I go back to the UK and I use an American word for something and I'll instantly get
mm,
corrected.
yeah, I
And
know, I know. Well,
and
everyone
it's
assumes that
interesting.
theirs is right, so that's what they know. And I find that Australian English is much more like American English. I understand friends over there much more than my
Mhm.
wife does from a British perspective. There's just certain words that I'm
Yeah.
really familiar with. But yeah, but then you add Australian slang into that as
Oh
well.
yeah.
And
That's
actually, I was just going to say when I get moments where people are being a bit passive aggressive, my coping strategy is I just start using an awful lot more Australian slang, and they don't know whether I'm being horrible or whether I'm
I
being
love
nice,
it.
and it deflates their attitude a bit. It's quite useful.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But it's, and isn't that funny that it's like we all speak the same language, but
Mm,
it's so different, and the nuances are so different. And I mean, with my kids, I've observed, especially with my younger one. I mean, she speaks basically they're two completely separate languages for her. So
mm,
when she's in the
mm,
UK, she's
mm.
English,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
when she's here, you wouldn't know, would not know.
No,
She's completely American.
no. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It
And
is, yeah.
it's like that phrase, isn't it? The two great countries separated by a common language.
Totally. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of navigate from one to the other
Mm,
around and use what comes into my head. And then I've got the
mm.
excuse to say I'm not a native speaker. So whatever comes
Yeah,
out of my mouth
yeah,
is where I'm at right now.
yeah.
So that just changes depending
Yeah.
on who I'm with as well. Creating this and talking about all these things,
Mm,
I feel right, especially right now with all this surge of nationalism, it's so much more important to create the connections and to make
mm,
people aware of all the cultural differences and how
mm.
okay it is. And
Yeah. And
that's
also that they're not a threat. They're
yeah,
just, I mean, and
yes,
that's the difference, isn't it, between
yeah,
fitting in and belonging, is that
yeah,
fitting you modify to fit, and belonging is you can all just be who you are, but in
mm-hmm,
a lovely big
mm-hmm,
mix. And I think also that's one of the things with being an expat, is that it really confronts you with who you think you are, and who you think you are is actually often quite different to who you actually realize you are. um,
mm-hmm, yes,
and and my kind of advice always to people is, if you're going to live somewhere else, you have to understand your own country before you can move to another, because there's otherwise you're completely shifting sands. There's nothing, you need some route to actually then launch from and know who you are and how you sit within that.
that's a very interesting point. Although I would say I mean I left Germany when I was very young, and
Mm,
I feel like I did my most of my growing up in the UK. So
yeah.
I didn't really, I feel like I didn't really know that much about Germany when I
Mm,
left, and I
mm,
learned a lot. I've learned a lot since. So
mm,
I'm kind of
yeah.
educating myself. I feel like I know a lot more about Germany now than, even though I haven't lived there for so long.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But that, I think that's also interesting for third culture kids, particularly, is where they're a bit of kind of several countries, and it's how you navigate
Hmm.
conversations with people who haven't lived elsewhere, or even if they have, but how much you tap into what the cliches are of those countries. So as soon as you
Yeah.
say German, in this country, it's instantly conversations about the war. I talk about Australia, and it's instantly like people think I'm fascinated with sport because I'm an Australian, and
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can't stand sport. You can learn your own country from the outside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's interesting. Also, some of the cliches that you weren't aware of, um,
Mm,
and then you witness it and you think, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
And that's all really funny. And but
yeah.
yeah, like you said, for TCKs, children who have all those different kind of backgrounds. I mean, my kids have three passports, so
Mm,
they, and you ask them, but they can't say, oh, I'm American. They don't, it's
mm.
not like that for them.
What
And
do they answer if you ask where they're from or who they are?
they
Or,
kind of, it's more the they feel a little bit of everything, and then they'll
mm,
say that. I always say, yeah, I'm German, but I don't really I don't really
No,
identify as a German because
no.
I'm a
Is that just
triangle.
because of, well, exactly. Is that just because you were born there? I mean, is that why you say it, or?
Yes, I guess. And also I feel, I mean, that's where it's home still. So I go back at least once a year,
Mm,
and I still have very good friends there, and that's
yeah.
I love it there. But
Mm,
that's one particular place also. That's where I grew up. I wouldn't say I could just move to a different part
mm,
of Germany and feel at home. I don't think that would
no,
happen. I think I would
no.
feel probably very much like an outsider
Mm.
moving there. All right, Kath, let's we are getting so deep into our philosophy here. Let's take a little break and do some quick fire questions. Question number 1. What do you miss the most about your home country?
Wow. What do I miss most from my home country? Well, for me, probably the biggest thing is actually the desert. I just love the desert. It's the place where it's kind of heart and soul for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the probably the only thing that I cannot actually get in the UK. So that's been a big tough thing that I've actually had to kind of, I guess, learn to navigate. And along with the desert, then is that the light that comes with that kind of landscape and the big skies. I just absolutely love it, and I come alive when I'm out there.
Oh, I totally get that. I can so imagine that big skies and yeah, the landscape.
And
That's
also because of that is one of the other things I miss hugely is working with Aboriginal people. I used to work a lot with Aboriginal people. And then also this is the thing, it's not just one, there's lots of little things, but these are the big ones. And then the last one is actually the friendliness of strangers. I really miss that with Australia. It's people in the UK can be quite friendly, but it tends to be more once you get to know them. There's a reserve, so I miss that friendliness.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. I find that, yeah, it's, I notice that reserve whenever I go back. It's different here in the southern United States too. All right. Okay, question number 2. What do you absolutely love about your new country?
Oh yeah, what I absolutely love about my new country. That's an easy one. The main thing for me, well, there's two. The main one is actually Radio 4. I love it, and I love the plays. I love the kind of political programs on there and the discussions. I love things like Woman's Hour, which is just the most amazingly wonderful program about women's issues and on all kinds of different layers. And I love the comedy programs, and I'm often listening to those when I'm cooking dinner. So
That is so funny. BBC is great. I love the BBC.
yeah, Radio 4. It's one of the things I'd miss. Fortunately, it's online, so I can hopefully listen to it wherever I am. And the other thing is, I guess for me, is really really big. Is that until 2018, my wife and I couldn't be married in Australia. Australia didn't recognise same-sex marriage, and so from my perspective, I've been married in the UK since 2007. And for me, that's, as you can imagine, fairly special. So that for me is a massive plus about living in the UK. But of course, Australia has now brought it in, so we have the chance to go back and be recognised there and live there. So, but it's been really important that it's been how it has for all these years for me in the UK.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and that must feel so good. Well, that's pretty good reasons to love your new country. Okay, question number 3. What did you think was true about your new country, but now you know is not? So, what really surprised you?
I think the thing that surprised me most was actually that I thought it would be easier living in the UK than I found it. It's a hard one to explain because it's made me realise how very Australian I actually am and what my identity really is. And I think I'd been here a lot on holidays, and I came for 6 months before I moved here.
Yeah. Yep, that's not quite the same, is it?
But it's very similar, but it's also actually quite different. So you fall into a false sense of security of thinking that actually everything is the same. And it kept catching me unawares. So yeah, it's really getting caught out by what I thought would be the same as Australia, and it's not. It's very, very different, and it's great, and I love it, but it's different, and that kind of it's not the kind of thing that actually just like kicks you and you really, really notice it. It's more like the little child that keeps poking at you in your lower back or your lower legs. That it just, little things kept happening that I just, it felt then that like the ground was like shifting sands. And so the kind of that expectation that would be the same just kept nibbling at me, and realizing that it wasn't.
Well, very deep answers, Cath, and I kind of feel we're gonna go back to our philosophy session. Anyway, so 13 years and still going strong. So you not necessarily planning to go back to Australia, or?
No, well, it's interesting because Australia, I kind of feel like Australia was my youth and this is now my adult life. And at the moment, if I went back, it feels a bit like I'm going backwards, and I'm not quite ready for that yet. And I need to keep going forwards. And I get the satisfaction of there because I have a job on at the moment, a project that I'm doing there, so I can come and go and work there.
Oh, that's
and
perfect.
I think it's nice. So I get a taste of what, and it's a project that's out in the outback, so I get to feed my need of being hot and dry, rather than wet and kind of cold. That's at the moment. It's grey and wet and rainy,
but it will be beautiful again very soon. And
it will.
Spring and summer in the UK when it's nice.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's just absolutely gorgeous. You can't top it. The countryside, and
it is stunning.
It's and also it's this whole, that's also part of the mentality. I think it's because people are so homebound over the winter months, and kind of, and then as soon as it gets the weather's nice and people come out, and it's almost like the whole character changes. It is a completely different country, and people are all of a sudden people are smiling and they'll talk to you, and it's just, and it's amazing. And because it's so special, then you just really appreciate it. So I love that. And this is when you live somewhere where it's just warm pretty much year round, it's not that there's not such an impact. So it's almost like you don't really appreciate the nice days. And
that's true. I remember in Australia thinking, I can't believe I say this now, but looking out the window in summer on hot days and saying, oh no, it's another blue sky. Like,
yes, I wish it would rain.
And now it's like, oh, I wish it would just stop raining and being windy and blowy. And
but it's no country is perfect. That's one of those things too. Exactly. And it's when when you complain to friends and family about the weather or something, and then they'll just be like, just stop complaining. And then I always feel like this, we probably should just stop complaining anyway, because there's no perfect place, and you just have to kind of love where you are, regardless of all the other factors.
There are, and I think that's the biggest thing about being an expat, is actually learning that you're learning it, like seeing your own life in a much more global context, and realizing that actually a crap day for you is still a privileged life. You might find it hard, but you're developing resilience and coping strategies.
Absolutely. And just
inner strength.
And,
and no place is perfect for that time in your life either. I may not like living somewhere at whatever age, and later on then love it because of what my life is at that time.
So Cath, is there anything you do to get your Australia fix? When you miss home, but you can't go there anytime soon, and you just want to do something to feel connected. What do you do?
There's two things I do. One is there's two coffee shops that serve really, really good flat white coffees. Now, I'm a bit of a fiend for a Sydney flat white, and they're often quite hard to find here. So I go and do that, and that's like the whole room disappears and I'm back there in Sydney drinking.
Oh, that's lovely. So what's special about a Sydney flat white compared to?
Oh, it's just beautiful. It's incredibly smooth and creamy. So it's basically a white coffee, but the foam on the top is what they call micro foam. So they tap the when they make it, they tap it, and it makes the big bubbles of a cappuccino go really, really small.
Oh,
and
that sounds amazing.
It brings on this really beautiful, silky, smooth milk that a lot of cafes don't do it. So
yes, very true.
I'm very good at finding good Australian ones.
Oh, I like that.
And the other thing is, I actually make things called friands, which aren't actually Australian. They're a French tea cake. But they're very Australian to me, because when I was still living there was a period where every single coffee shop would have friands, and they're basically like a mini muffin, but they're an oval shape. And when I make them here for people, it's the one recipe that people always ask me for.
Oh, I like it. That's nice. That's kind of also part of you, because you said you traveled a lot as a child with your parents.
Yeah,
so
huge amount.
I love that. I mean, this is like my I love my mom's Greek spinach pastry. She makes spanakopita. Nice. So she's German, but she loves Greek food, and so that's something that takes hers is the best. I've never had one that's better than hers, and that completely takes me back to being a child in Germany, which is it doesn't really make sense, but that's
it is weird, isn't all the cross-cultural stuff, like
love it.
Greek and Middle Eastern food is just heavenly. Absolutely.
Well, I guess we could have a whole other podcast about international foods. I love to imagine you sitting in a coffee shop in drizzly cold England, sipping on your divine Sydney flat white. I think that's a lovely image. So
I'm so known for it that if I post one up, people think I'm back home in Sydney. Like, she's home. Oh no, she's not.
Very good. And if you can't get it anyway, you have to learn to make it yourself. So wonderful.
Well, exactly.
It's been really nice talking to you, Cath. And I'll put a link to your the book, and also the I'm a Triangle in the show notes.
Yeah, reach out if you've got any questions about living in the UK.
Totally, yes, because
else.
you are very active in the expat, like global expat community, really. And so
it's my sanity now.
Well, it's kind of, I feel like I'm slowly joining this big community.
It's wonderful,
and
absolutely
so
wonderful.
I'm really happy about that. And so yes, plenty of resources and plenty of tips and tricks to be learned from.
Very happy to help anyone who's got any questions.
Well, thanks for jumping in and being flexible, and
my pleasure.
I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie.
Take care.
Bye.
Cath and I could have easily carried on talking for at least another 4 or 5 hours, but she had another commitment. She was off to play darts at the local pub, as you do when you're a good English girl and you're part of your local community. If you want to find out more about Cath and what she's up to, including her wonderful book and her illustrations, then please visit her website at www.drawntoastory.com. I've included the link in the show notes, as well as links to the other organizations that we mentioned in this episode. So that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Transcontinental Overload. Take care and see you next time.